Hi everyone, Dr. Crehay here. This starts the second part of Chapter 1. So if you're feeling kind of tired, you're a little bit bored after that first little part on Chapter 1, this is a really excellent place to just stop, go take a walk, stretch, and then come back. So I'll try to do these lectures this way to give you some natural breaking points. I know it's hard to sit at a computer and listen to these things. So I believe, and we can test this out, and if it doesn't work out, let me know, but I believe you can stop it now and just leave. You can close your browser, and when you come back, Zaption should save your place and let you resume right here. Again, if you do this and that is not the case, send me an email and I'll change the settings so that you can skip back to the place where you were. So if you feel like you need a break, go ahead and take one. Alright, so I keep throwing around this term research methods. I think I've mostly been talking about the course, but research methods is a form of science, right? So it's the systematic study of relationships. We apply it using the research methods. So there's a whole set of steps that we go through, just like I talked about in the last slides. We identify the problem, we design a study, we collect data on it, we make conclusions based on that, and then we start all over. We make a new question, collect more data, and we keep revising and revising and revising until we get a clearer picture of the phenomena, whatever's happening. There are a couple of different kinds of research methods. We have the experimental method, quasi-experimental method, and then the correlational method. Most of the research that we'll be talking about in this class will be correlational. We might talk about some quasi-experiments, maybe one or two experimental methods. We'll see how that goes. So I'll talk about those in the following slides. So in an experimental design, we're really looking at cause and effect relationships. So, given this one thing, this other thing happens. There are some pretty strict rules on how to meet experimental criteria. First and foremost, random assignment to groups. So you need your groups to be equivalent on everything besides whatever kind of manipulation you're applying. So say that I want to run a study and I'm interested in how stress impacts your ability to solve math problems. And so I have two different groups. I'm just going to flip a coin. I get heads, you go to this group, tails, you go to this other group. One group maybe gets as much time as needed to complete GRE math questions. The other group has to finish them within 5 minutes or something. So essentially we have a non-stress group and a stress group, and I'm assigning you to one of those two groups by the flip of a coin, a fair two-sided coin. So we have random assignment. The next is that we must manipulate levels of an independent variable. So again, the independent variable is what the researchers change, and they're hoping to cause some kind of change in a dependent variable. So the dependent variable depends on the independent variable. So in my example that I just gave, the independent variable would be stress, right? So one level of that stress variable is a no stress or a low stress, where they get as much time as they need. A high stress level of that variable would be where I'm imposing a time limit of 5 minutes. So let's see what else they say here. Oh yeah, the independent variable is the proposed cause. So the idea here with an experimental study is that because I have randomly assigned people to two different groups, they're equal, they should be equal in their gender, in their education, all of those things should wash out. And then if the stress group does much worse on those GRE test questions than the no stress group, then we could conclude that stress impairs cognitive ability, impairs the ability to do these math questions, right? So the IV is the proposed cause, the DV is the effect there. So on the other hand, a quasi-experiment, quasi means kind of, sort of or approximately an experiment. This will typically have a non-manipulated independent variable. So in the last experiment, example, we divided people random assignment into a stress group and a no stress group. So we're very clearly manipulating that independent variable. What if, on the other hand, we were interested in performance on a math test by gender? So we can't assign people to be male or female. That's something that you have on your own. And so we're interested in this dichotomy and how it impacts your participation or your successful completion of these math problems. So it's kind of an experiment. We're looking at two different groups, but the groups are choosing themselves. Basically, we can't assign people to those groups. So quasi experiment, sort of an experiment, but we don't manipulate the independent variable. Many of you are familiar with correlational analyses. This is what we looked at in our research methods course. But basically, we're just looking at the relationship between two variables. So I could send out a survey, ask, 10 questions, and then I could just search for a relationship between any two of those questions. There are a lot of problems with correlational research methods. They capitalize on chance. People want to say that a correlation indicates a cause, but it actually doesn't, those kinds of things. But correlational studies are very popular. They're used very frequently. So we'll talk about that more in this course. But in general, just know it helps you to quantify the strength and direction of a relationship between two variables. There aren't very many stipulations on how you collect data on those variables. You could just comb through a website and look at, the use of certain words to, represent different attitudes and the, I don't know, gross national product or something like that. Total debt of the country at that point in time. You could run a statistical analysis and see if there's a relationship. So it's a more straightforward research method, but it also has quite a few drawbacks.